Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf, TEMURAH, Daf Gimel. We're holding 6 lines off the top of the Amar. Let's go back and review what we learned yesterday. Mukdashe, according to the Bach, Kadashe. So we have a carbon that a guy had donated. Kadshe, Oidei Keichav. It had its own unique system. So on the one hand, it's a carbon, but it has limitations. And very different than a standard carbon offered by a Yisrael. Firstly, loy nehenin, beloy ma'olen. Although you're not meant to use it for personal use, but that's only asur midrabanan. Beloy ma'olen, but if one actually misuses it, he has not violated mi'ilah, with all its consequences, requiring a carbon, etc. That doesn't apply to a carbon of a guy, so it's exempt from mi'ilah. And the Gemara explains, on the one hand, loy nehenin, don't use it midrabanan. So Rabbanan don't allow it, but technically there's no mi'ilah on this carbon. My time, why is it exempt from mi'ilah? You would think it's like a regular carbon. The answer is the chsiv. Because in respect to mi'ilah, it says nefesh kesimol ma'al v'chat abishkaga. It has the term chet, which allows for a connection to teruma, where likewise we find the word chet. V'alfinan chet over here, chet over there, mitruma, from truma, but truma ksiv. Over there it says that truma is limited to Bnei Yisrael, and just like truma is specific to Yisrael, who separate their the truma from their crop, as opposed to a guy who does not have that obligation. Likewise, the concept of mi'ilah will only apply to the carbon of a yid, not a guy. Furthermore, to these halachas apply pigul, noiser, and tamei. So tamei is where a fellow who's impure ate that carbon. There's no consequence, no karas consequence. Noiser, if the material of the carbon was left beyond its expiry time, so it doesn't have the noiser status, and pigul as well, which means that if the kayin had the wrong intent while processing the carbon, it doesn't have pigul status. So all these don't apply to the carbon of a guy. You know why? Because the chsiva b'tumah, let's start from the last item, tumah, where it says, Daber al-arn al-bana v'yinosar m'kodesh b'nei Yisrael, lo yichalu es-shem v'chulu. So the concept of the tumah only applies to kodesh b'nei Yisrael. And now we connect noisar to tumah. V'yolaf noisar chilu mituma. We make a gzera shava between tumah, which is limited to Bnei Yisrael, over to noisar, to limit it as well. The chsiv gabi tumah Bnei Yisrael v'lo yichalu, because by tumah it says it's specific to Bnei Yisrael, and it has the lashon of chilul, desecration. Chsiv gabi noisar, likewise by noisar, it has the lashon of chilul as well. V'oichlav avani yisok, it's kodesh Hashem chilul. Hence we have this link between noisar and tumah, so we import the Bnei Yisrael limitation from tumah to noisar, and now we're going to further import this halacha over to pigul. V'yolaf pigul avayin mi noisar. Pigul will derive through avayin from noisar, because in both we have a lashon of avayin. The chsiv gabi pigul, by pigul it says v'nefesh hayicheles min avayin nati. So we have a lashon of avayin. V'chsiv gabi noisar. Likewise by noisar we have a similar term v'ichlav avayin no yisos. It is kodesh Hashem chilel. So we import this halacha over from noisar to pigul, in which case v'kulu. So sum total is that all these obligations, all these chiyuvim, only apply by Bnei Yisrael, a carbon of a yid, whether it's tamei, noisar, or pigul, v'lo yicham, as opposed to a carbon of a guy. TEMURAH. Furthermore, a carbon that a guy donates doesn't have the ability to generate a copy, a TEMURAH, the chsiv, because by TEMURAH it says, lo yachlifeno, v'lo yamer oiso, chsiv reisha inyan. If you go back to the beginning of the discussion there, it specifies that this is referring to Bnei Yisrael only. Dava Bnei Yisrael, ish ki yafli neder be'erkecha. So we learn that this whole concept of TEMURAH is specific to a carbon of a yid. There's another version explaining why the carbon of God doesn't generate a TEMURAH my timer, because the iskashat TEMURAH behema l'maser behema, because we find that the Torah refers to the TEMURAH of a behema in the same breath as discussing maser behema, the 10th animal, which is meant as a carbon. And we already know that the concept of maser behema is limited to Yisrael, or maser behema, because it's connected to maser dagan, to the maser of a crop, which certainly only applies to a Yisrael. So we have this chain derivation. We got by maser dagan, it says Kes maser b'nei Yisrael hashirim el Hashem, and we learn b'nei Yisrael v'lo yivcham that maser only applies to crop of b'nei Yisrael, not goy. We carry that over to maser behema as well. Rashi explains, where is the connection between maser behema and maser dagan? Because we had this back in Bechoros actually. Aser to aser. The pasuk mentions two types of maser, and the Gemara learns that one is maser behema, one is maser dagan. So we have that linkage between these two. Hence, whatever applies to maser dagan applies to maser behema, and vice versa. So it's only b'nei Yisrael, not a goy. And then we carry that over to TEMURAH, which again is linked to maser behema in the same pasuk. So we limit it to carbon of a yid and not a guy. Maybe nesachim. Now, if the guy donates a carbon, he doesn't offer nesachim, the wine and all that. Aval parshanut-torah-comment, divrei Rabbi Shimon. So he himself, as a person, can't offer that, but his carbon, as a carbon, requires that accompaniment. So it's sponsored by the public fund. But not only how do we know that in fact it is so? The Tanur Rabbanon, we have a brayso. Ezrach, the citizen, a true Yisrael, Ezrach maybe nesachim, he brings nesachim, be'enav t'kecham maybe nesachim, but a guy does not. So as a person, he's not obligated to bring it. He can't offer nesachim, but his carbon, as a carbon entity, requires nesachim. Yochel, perhaps, loy tehei eilasai tu'una nesachim, perhaps his carbon oila wouldn't require nesachim. Tamalim kacha. Kacha means with absoluteness. Every carbon has to be accompanied by nesachim. If he can't sponsor it, we do it for him. Amar B'yasi. He disagrees with Reb Shimon that applies all these limitations and restrictions to the carbon of a guy. He says, no. Royani b'kula lahachmer. Appears to me that all these standards apply to a carbon of a guy as well. Pigel, nicer, everything. My time, you know why? Lashem ksibbe, because in reference to a carbon of a guy, it says Lashem, yakrivi Lashem la'olah, to indicate that it's a regular carbon Lashem like any other, with all the trimmings. Now, when we spoke about the carbon of a guy being exempt from me'ilah, according to the first opinion, the brayso specifies, but medva mamurim, when do we say it's exempt from me'ilah? B'kachim mizbeach, by a carbon meant for the mizbeach. If it's a guy's, no me'ilah. Ava b'kachim bedek habayis, but if he donates to the bedek habayis fund, then of course there's me'ilah. When you alan behen, then we have me'ilah, which is a bit of an irony because kachim bedek habayis is a lower level kedusha. That will have me'ilah, as opposed to kachim mizbeach, which won't. My time, you know why? Because why do we exclude a carbon of a guy from me'ilah? As we just learned, my timer, the chi gamrina me'ilah, chet mitruma, because me'ilah is linked to truma through chet. Just like truma only applies to a yid, likewise me'ilah. So that linkage relates to two similar entities that are comparable. Dumid the truma, the kodesh kedushas haguf. So it's fair to compare a carbon mizbeach, which is kedushas haguf, which is inherently kodesh, to truma, which is also something which has inherent value. As kedushas haguf, it's meant for the kayhanim, right? It's not just a value status; it's inherent status. It has kedusha. So there, it's a fair comparison. And just like truma is limited to Yisrael, likewise, the me'ilah of a kachim mizbeach, avol kedushas bedek habayis, as opposed to a donation to the maintenance fund, which is not inherently kadosh, it's just monetarily committed to the cause. The kedushas damim, it's only kedushas damim. That's not a fair comparison to truma, which is a totally different class of material. So we don't make that linkage, and hence we don't apply the truma limitation to kedushas bedek habayis. Hence, if a guy donates to the treasury, it carries a me'ilah consequence. Amar b'damarav. Here comes a general rule regarding malchus for violating, for transgressing a loisas. You should know, kol loisas shebetorah, all negative commandments in the Torah. Does it generate malchus, 39 lashes for one who violates? It depends. If it involves a physical act or it's just a passive violation. Also b'masa, if he did an actual physical violation, chayiv, he gets malchus. Lo yasa b'masa pater, but otherwise he's pater, even though he transgressed. But if it was in a passive form, there's no malchus. The Gemara Mesechus Makkos has a couple of sources for this. One pshat is because the discussion about malchus is stated right next to a lav, where he muzzles an animal, which involves a physical act. Hence, we learn that a physical, act is a prerequisite for malchus. Asks the Gemara, really? Uklala, who is that a general rule? That, in fact, the lav she'im b'masa pater, if there's no masa, you're pater for malchus, v'ari meimar. What about truma? TEMURAH. Right? TEMURAH, the lav she'im b'masu, there's no physical act, he's just expressing words by saying this is instead of this. Ve'ilaki, and of course there's malchus generated on account of violating the TEMURAH violation. We have in a Mishnah, Daf Beis. This now we just learned loishu rashi lahamer. It's not to say that he's allowed to make a TEMURAH. Ela shem heimer mumar. If he did it, works. So the kedusha gets expanded over to the next animal, and guess what? He gets malchus b'segas arbaim, despite the absence of a physical act. How does this work with this rule? Amlach Rav. So Rav will respond, yeah, you're right. It's subject to machlekes tanoim. Hamani Rabbi Yehuda. Our Mishnah is not the consensus view. It's Rabbi Yehuda's personal shita, the Amar, who in fact holds that, lav, shem by maisa, like an olav, even without a maisa, there is malchus. How could you say our Mishnah is reflective of Rabbi Yehuda's opinion? Can you establish our Mishnah like Rabbi Yehuda? We just aligned our Mishnah unlike Rabbi Yehuda. Yesterday we had the kasha, the ktani, because the Mishnah began Hakol Memirim. All have the power to affect a TEMURAH. Who's all? Hakoy Lasui might include who? Lasui Yerush, even a Yerush who's taking over his father's carbon. Or they like Rabbi Yehuda, unlike Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that a Yerush cannot. Clearly, our Mishnah is not aligned with Rabbi Yehuda. Says the Gemara, you're right, it's not actually Rabbi Yehuda speaking, it's a third opinion. Who adopted some element of Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, and not the other. So on the one hand, with respect to the question of the Yerush, I'll disagree with Rabbi Yehuda, but with respect to the question of applying malchus for a passive violation, for a non-physical violation, there'll be malchus. Haitana, this new shita, this new Tana, on the one hand, he's consistent with Rabbi Yehuda, the lav shem b'maisa like an olav, upalgali b'chada. On the other matter, he'll disagree regarding the Yerush's ability to do a TEMURAH. Deal Rabbi Yehuda savar, because Rabbi Yehuda holds Yerush einay semich, Yerush einay meimer, Yerush cannot do smicha or TEMURAH, and V'tana dan savar, our Tana disagrees on that account. Savar Yerush semich and Yerush yes meimer. Further on this topic, so once again we have a rule regarding the application of malchus. So regarding transgressing a law, malchus is only when there's a maisa done as opposed to a passive violation. So it's pretty much in line with the previous statement. But he adds an exception, actually several exceptions to the rule. Chutz, except minishba. If a person makes a false oath, so even though it's just a verbal transgression, there's malchus. Umeimar, okay, that's close to home. TEMURAH. Umekalel as chaver b'shem, he curses his friend with Hashem's name by invoking Hashem's name. In these three, even though it doesn't entail a physical act, it triggers malchus. And here comes a fourth exception. Mishum Rabbi Yosef Bar Chanina Amru, it was said in his name, Afa Magdim Truma Lebikurim. So if a person does his Truma and Bikurim out of sequence, out of order, you meant to do Bikurim first. The first time you see the fruit, you meant to designate as Bikurim, and only then later do Truma. If he does it the other way, there is malchus as well. And actually, the Gemara later will translate this line that he was actually going the other way. That to be maktin Purim Bikurim does not generate a lav because it's a lav that's nitak laseh. We'll see later in the Gemara. Okay, so we have the general rule. Only a physical transgression triggers malchus, but we have some exceptions. First is nishba. Okay, so he makes a false oath. Minol, how do we know that he gets malchus for that, despite the lack of a masa? Omar b'yechem shur meir. Omakro. Ki lo yinaka Hashem es asher yisa shmei lashav. Torah says Hashem will not overlook one who invokes Hashem's name in vain. Lo yinaka Hashem won't. But down here, we have a way of addressing it through malchus. Bezin shel malo, the bezin upstairs. They don't just cleanse him and allow the simple tshuva to take care of it. It's much more involving. But here down in the bezin shel mata, on simple malchus will take care of it. Hence we know that malchus is applied for a shvuah sheker. How do we know that malchus will address it? Perhaps the pasuk means there's no way to address it. You can't address it at all, not upstairs or downstairs. It says if that were so, it would just say lo yinaka. So it can't be overlooked. It can't be done away with simple means. But without adding the word Hashem. Why add the word Hashem? To teach that bezin shel malo who they makanoise upstairs, they don't just cleanse him easily. Avo bezin shel mata, but here in bezin shel mata, malkim nakanoise, they apply malchus to clear him of that violation. Okay, ashkan shvas shav. So we've now discovered, we've established malchus for shvas shav, which is the subject matter of that pasuk. Lashav, in vain. In vain means that he's, blatantly falsifying something. Right? He swears that it's snowing outside and it's the middle of July, right? So a shvuas shav is an outright, blatant falsification invoking Hashem's name, very severe. It triggers malchus. But what about a lower level violation? A lower level falsification invoking Hashem's name, shvuas sheker. He's just lying. I ate, he didn't eat. I'm gonna eat, he doesn't, right? So we know shvuas shav, okay, but shvuas sheker miralin, what do we know about shvuas sheker? How do we know there's malchus there? Rabbi Yochanan de Amar, Rabbi Yochanan, who was the one who was quoting, he himself now came around to explain it. So he added to the explanation to the drasha. Rabbi Yochanan de Amar, lashav shnei pa'amim. Take a closer look at that pasuk again. It says lashav twice. Lo yisisa Hashem Hashem lokech lashav, ki lo yanake Hashem. Eis asher yusa esmei lashav. So why the word lashav twice? It's not either for blatant falsification, right? Because that's already mentioned in the first time. Tneu inyan l'shva sheker, the like applied to a regular shva sheker to give a malchus. Maskav l'revo. How? Practically, how are you going to give malchus for shva sheker? What's the case? What is he lying about? Shvuah sheker chidami, what variation of shvuah sheker are we talking about? Inema, are we speaking the Amar that he promised? Shloich I will not eat. V'achol, he violated his oath and he ate. Well, that's not lacking in a ma'isa. We're looking to apply malchus to a non-ma'asa related violation. Here, he committed a physical act to violate his oath. He promised not to eat, and he went and he ate anyways. Hasamu ma'asa avad. Of course he did a mas, and of course it generates malchus without the special, drasha. Apparently, what happened was, he promised to eat, but he didn't. So he violated his shvuah, but in a passive manner. Is there malchus on that, really? Hahumi lucky. Will he get malchus in this case? Wait, we have a discussion where we learn that there's no malchus. He promises to eat this loaf of bread today. The day passes by without him eating it. Rabbi Yochanan Shimon Lakish, they both say, Amri Eina Lakish, there's no malchus for different reasons. Rabbi Yochanan Eina Lakish, there's no malchus. Because it was just a passive violation. without a maser. And there's no maser, there's no malchus. So clearly Rabbi Yochanan himself holds there's no malchus in this case. Like he says, the reason why he doesn't get malchus is for a different reason. Because in order to generate an einish consequence, you have to precede it with a warning. And here it's an uncertain warning. When are you going to warn him? At 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Make sure to eat it. If you don't eat it now, he'll say, listen, I got time. I got a whole day. And it's impossible. It's hard to time it perfectly, to get him like 2 minutes before sunset and say, well, you better eat it now. If not, you're going to... So ultimately, it's going to be asra safek, and you can't punish based on a pending warning. So clearly, in this case, there's no malchus. So which case has malchus by shvua sheker? Ella amar avo tehei must be be'ochalti v'le'echalti. It's referring to past. I promised that I ate breakfast. He didn't eat. So in this case, he'll get malchus, despite it being a passive violation. But if it's going on the future, I promised to eat and he doesn't, there is no malchus, like we said a minute ago. Now what's the difference? How do you know that the pasuk, which is introducing malchus even for passive shvua sheker violation, is referring to only past, not future? How do we know? What's the difference? Why do we say the kamar ba'chalti v'le'echalti? You're including and applying malchus to a case of past. I promised that I ate, he really didn't. Then there's malchus. As opposed to future, where there's no malchus. Ma'eichel, he promises to eat, lo'echel, he doesn't eat, that there's no malchus. Why? Why would you prefer the past over the future? Amarava, very simply, because look at that pasuk again. The pasuk is really dealing with shvuas shav. I promised that this, chair is made of gold, and it's really not, right? That's a past event. It's a fact which precedes his oath. So when the pasuk, which discusses shvua shav, which is by definition a past tense concept, goes and expands and includes even another variation, which we call shvua sheker, we assume it's in the same context. It's also a past, relating to a past event. Amar Rabbi Feirish, clearly the Torah includes and expands malchus to a shvua sheker, which is doim l'shav, comparable to the shvua shav, and ma shav l'shav, just like shav relates to something of the past, a fact which is already in existence. By the time he utters his falsified oath, av sheker l'shav, likewise, a lower level sheker regarding a past event is past only. Hence we know, and that just as there is malchus for shvua shav, there's malchus for shvua sheker as well, provided it relates to the past. I promised that I ate breakfast, and he really didn't. Esvei, Rabbi Yirmiyah, he has a question, Rabbi Avo. You say there's malchus for falsifying a past fact. Here comes a brais, a mishnah. Shvua shelo ichal kigarzu. I make a shvua not to eat this loaf of bread, and he repeats the same again, shvua shelo ichlana. And again, a third time, shvua shelo ichlana, va'achlani eats it. How many malchus does he get? Only one. Because, as Rashi explains, you can't pile it on. Ein shvu'ah chalal shvu'ah, says Rashi. You can't apply one shvu'ah on a pre-existing shvu'ah. It's already also on account of the first oath. You can't add layers to it. Only chayiv one. Ein chayiv la'achas. With shvu'ah spiti, this is the classic shvu'ah spiti, a shvu'ah of expression, meaning as opposed to shvu'ah which involves denial of monetary claims, which are more complicated. It's a more straightforward shvuas bitui, an oath which he's violating, a personal oath which he's transgressing, whose consequences as follows: Shachayov and alzdoina makus was done intentionally. There's makus. While shigasa karban oilev yered was done unintentionally. There's a carbon called oilev yered. It's a fluid carbon which fluctuates based on his financial abilities. It's either an animal, a bird, or... Now, when the Mishnah expressed the word zuhi is a limiting term, only this. Meaning, only this specific case carries this specific consequence, as opposed to something else. What are we excluding? Zuhi lim utimai, what are we excluding? So it only applies to a case where I promised not to eat and I ate. My love, let's assume it's excluding a case which relates to past. My love lim uti achativ le'echalti. He promises that he ate breakfast and he really didn't. And we're excluding malchus from there. There's no malchus. This flies in the face of what we just said a minute ago. We have a special pasuk to apply malchus, even falsifying his breakfast facts. No. Let's recalibrate. Zui, yes, it says zui, which is a limiting term, but not the way you're assuming. Zui, only in this case, where he promised to eat something, he promised not to eat the bread, and he ate it. In this case, there's malchus and there's a curb on it, if it's b'shegeg, because it relates to the future. But a past event, if it relates to past events, in that case, there's no carbon, because the pasuk about carbon speaks about future. Zui dal shegegasa ma'aseh carbon. In this case, a shegeg generates a carbon. But if he's lying about a past event, there is malchus, but there's no carbon. So if it was done by Meza, there's malchus, but b'shegeg there's no carbon. Lo ma'aseh carbon. No matter Rabbi Shmuel, we're going like Rabbi Shmuel. The Amor tells us back in Masechah Shvois, carbon is specific to future, falsification about future events. Rabbi Shmuel, the Amor says, "Ein chayv al asad lo." Carbon is specific to future. But in the case of a past event, although carbon will not apply, but in the case of intentional violation, there is malchus, which is perfectly in line with what we're saying all along. Really, Amos. Let's proceed to the next part of the Mishnah, which discusses a shvuas shav. As we explained before, shvuas shav is a blatant falsification of a clear fact. I swear this beam is made of gold and it's really stone, right? Amos Seifos, the Mishnah continues. So let's go by it. Zui shvuas shav. So here's an example of shvuas shav, which again carries consequence as follows. Shechayav al makis. An intentional violation is makis. But in this case, there's no carbon of shvuas shav. Al shegasa patr. And again, we have the word zuhi. What's zuhi coming to limit, to exclude? Zuhi l'mutimai. So again, we're assuming my lav lucky. Malchus only applies to a true shvuas shav, but if he's lying about whether he ate breakfast, there's no malchus on that. And again, this flies in the face of the halacha that we're going with all along, that we have a special pasuk to apply malchus to a falsification about past events. Loi, incorrect. Zui dal shigasa patim bikarvan. When the Mishnah concludes with the word zui, it's relating to the carbon aspect. Zui dal shigasa patim bikarvan. When he does a shvuas shav, there's no carbon even by a shegeg. Carbon doesn't apply to shvuas shav, falsifying an obvious fact, as opposed to lying about a past event. In that case, if it's shegeg, there is a carbon. But regarding past, I didn't. Ma'aseh carbon, there is a carbon if it's b'shegeg. So this part of the Mishnah will fall in line with Rabbi Kiva, who says actually there is carbon for past events as well. But a minute ago you said you just told me Reish Rabbi Shmuel. That part A of the Mishnah is going like Rabbi Shmuel. There's no carbon on past events. And here he's saying that we're going like Rabbi Kiva, that there is. Ella, you must say with the Sefer Rabbi Kiva, Reish Rabbi Kiva. You're right. Just that part B is Rabbi Kiva speaking, who applies a carbon for past events too. Likewise, part A of the Mishnah as well. So let's go back to the Reish. He makes a shvu, I will not eat this bread. And he eats it. B'shegeg, carbon. B'mezid, malchus. Mishnah stresses this. Only this case. As opposed to what? So he thought, as opposed to past events, where there's no, no. We're not excluding past events. Because, as we saw in the Sefer, because as we're saying all along, as we saw in the Sefer that even past events have consequence. Malchus, carbon. The Reish, however, is not excluding past events. Because look, it's relating to future. I will not eat, and he eats. So when we have a limitation there, we assume that limitation also applies to a future tense, a future event. It's coming to limit, it's coming to exclude a case of oicha v'lo yochel. So only when he says, I will not eat, and he eats, then he gets malchus, etc. But if he says, I will eat, ultimately he didn't eat it. That's a passive violation. In that case, there is no malchus. Why? Because as we said before, it's a lav shem v'maisa, right? Okay, so bottom line is like this. Each part of the Mishnah, each case, is accompanied with the word zuhi, a limiting expression. This and not that. And each case, we assume, is limiting, is excluding something which is similar to itself. So this, yeah, but that not. So in the Reisha, he promised not to eat and he ate. Full consequence, full weight of the law. Zuhi, but only this, as opposed to when the case is reversed. I will eat and he doesn't. In that case, there's no consequence. There's no malchus, right? Part B of the Mishnah, which speaks about shvuas shav, falsifying something which is evidently false, right? That's, like we said, a past, sort of relates to past. It's already there in existence. So here, it's excluding something which is likewise relating to past. I.e., I ate breakfast and he really didn't. In that case, he gets hit by the full brunt of the law. Malchus, if it's b'mezid, korban, if it's b'shegig. Says the more Mishnah, why would you go this way? Why would part A of the Mishnah be excluding this and part B excluding that? Maybe part A is also excluding the past, right? How do you know? Says the Gemara, because it's all about context. Like we explained, Mishum dekoy b'lahaba, part A is speaking about a future phenomena. Might lahaba. So the immediate also relates to a future phenomena. So it relates to a case where he said, I'm not going to eat and he ate, full brunt of the law, as opposed to a case where he says, I'm going to eat and he didn't eat. Then he's not chayiv. But if we're discussing future, you think the exclusion and the limitation refers to past? Unlikely. It's out of context. So it makes more sense to go this way. So bottom line, we have a Mishnah with two parts. Part A, I will not eat this loaf, and he eats it, is chayiv. As opposed to, I will, yes, eat, and he doesn't. That's a passive violation. There's no. Part B of the Mishnah speaks about a shvuas shav, which is by definition a past thing. And this, and only this, has malchus without korban, but something which is similar to this, another variation of a past event. I ate breakfast, he really didn't. In that case, full brunt of the law. Malchus for mezid and korban for shegig. In line with what we're saying all along, that there is in fact malchus for shvuas sheker of this type. So bottom line, even though a shvuah is just a verbal expression, it's not a physical act, there is malchus for shvuas shav, and likewise one variation of shvuas sheker, such as I promise I ate breakfast and I really didn't, because it's learned from the same pasuk as shvuas shav because of that repetition. So it has to be similar in ilk, similar in type to shvuas shav, which relates to past. However, if it's an account of the future, I will eat and he doesn't, in that case he's potter. We had another interesting machlekes regarding korban. Between Rav Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says korban is always only on the future thing, and according to Rabbi Kiva, even on the past. Umeimar. Next item is TEMURAH. There's malchus despite the lack of a maisa. Amali Rabbi Yochanan Latanos. Rabbi Yochanan turned to the Amor. He says, Meimar, don't include Meimar on the exception list, because there is a maisa. Although it's just a verbal expression, but ultimately it takes effect. It has a physical ramification. It's mekadosh the korban. So it's not lacking in the physical masa aspect, and of course it gets malchus like anything else. Third on the list is cursing somebody, invoking Hashem's name. Manol, how do we know that there's malchus? If you don't adhere, if you don't, conform, you get v'hifla. What's meant v'hifla? Hafla is when I'm not sure what exactly hafla means. We have another pasuk, Pila Shaif, that you call the fun of the judge, bends him over and gives him malchus. Now we see the hafla and v'pila, similar words. So Malchus relates to the lashes. Okay, so we learn from here. And Malchus applies to a fellow who violates Imlei Sishmar. The pasuk that continues, person is disregarding Chas v'Shalom Hashem's name, Liras Hashem Anich B'Anori, invokes Hashem's name in an inappropriate, within a curse context, so then there's Malchus. Says the Gemara, how do we know that the Malchus for invoking Hashem's name is only if it's within a curse context? Maybe any time a person makes a shvuah, including Hashem's name, he gets Malchus. Eimar afilu shvuah emes. Right, even an honest oath, a truthful oath, oath. You can't say that. We have a pasuk. Shvuah Hashem tevei shneim. So when you have somebody claiming against you, you go to Bezdin, you swear to exempt yourself. Torah has instructed you to swear. How could you be liable for it? Perhaps Torah is telling you, look, if you want to appease your friend, get him off your back, you swear to exempt yourself. But you got Malchus for bringing yourself to this situation. You can't suggest that the Chsiv pasuk says you should swear using Hashem's name. Apparently, if it's done in a proper way, in a respectful way, in a proper context, there's no problem. Well, perhaps that pasuk you just quoted is for something else. Look at the Rav. How do we know that it's appropriate for a person to make a shvuah, to spur himself, to motivate himself to do mitzvahs? The Melech says, I swore to motivate myself to keep the mitzvahs. So yeah, in that context, but just to get into Bezdin, to swear using Hashem's name to exempt yourself from a monetary claim, who says that's justified? We have another pasuk, do invoke Hashem's name in a proper shvuah. So you can't say that he's punished for doing so. So what then is he being warned against? What then does Malchus apply? When he invokes Hashem's name in a very inappropriate context, using it to curse a person. Well, maybe the Malchus applies for any person who just mentions Hashem's name in vain. Maybe that's what's going on. Okay, even if that's true, but the person actually uses Hashem's name in the context of a curse, is that any less severe than just uttering Hashem's name in vain? Of course not. Says the Gemara, what I meant to ask is like this. You're right. Perhaps just uttering Hashem's name in vain, in that case, Malchus is sufficient to address that violation. But if he actually expresses Hashem's name, invoking a klala, given the Gavad Tarti, since he's doing two things wrong. He's uttering Hashem's name inappropriately. And number two, he's hurting his friend. But in this case, Malchus is not sufficient to address it and to atone for it. Says the Gemara, no. You can't say that this Malchus applies to a fellow who is just uttering Hashem's name in vain without the context of a curse. Rather, it's referring to a curse only. Why? Because you have a pasuk which expressly tells us, with an outright warning, don't curse that person, and certainly a hearing person. So it makes sense that the punishment likewise applies to the item on which we have a express warning. There's an outright lav for cursing, so we assume that the second pasuk pairs up with this first pasuk to add the Malchus for invoking Hashem's name in that curse. So if in fact the Malchus refers to a fellow who's makalas chaveru with Hashem's name as TEMURAH, so that makes sense because the warning was this pasuk, and it's followed by the consequence, which is the Malchus. But if you're going to insist that the Malchus applies to just expressing Hashem's name in vain, Where do we find an outright warning against that? So it makes more sense that if we have a clearly expressed lav against cursing, that likewise the consequence of the malchus applies to this case as well. But if you're going to tell me that it's going on that, where's the warning? Allah says, what do you mean? Why not? I have a warning. We have another pasuk which warns against uttering Hashem's name in vain. As Hashem Tira, meant to have awe and fear for Hashem and Hashem's, any reference to Hashem, but you say meant to serve Him and be close to Him, and not just mentioning Hashem's name callously. But that's not really a lav. It's a warning which is implied through a positive instruct. Do, right? Do respect Hashem. Do regard Hashem with utmost awe and affinity, right? Implying not to, misconstrue Hashem, any reference to Hashem. So it's an implication. It's not an outright lav which is expressed as such, in which case it doesn't really qualify to generate malchus. Rather, the malchus will apply to l'sekal cherish, which is an outright warning against cursing, and if he adds the Shem Hashem to the curse, there in fact is malchus. Alright, so we have first a discussion regarding the carbon of a guy. We have all types of limitations and exclusions based on various psukim. Then we proceeded to the rule that malchus is only on a lav sheyesh b'maisa. And then we have some exceptions: nishba, meimar, mokalas chaver b'shem, and we have the psukim for each one of those items. All the best to you, and much, much hatzlacha.